Hello friends, welcome to Premier UPSC IAS. So today in this lecture we are going to discuss about art and culture part of the UPSC syllabus. So this is only the revision part of the art and culture for prelims examination. So all those important points which could be considered as important for the questions in the UPSC prelims are only covered. It is not for mains and it is not the whole subject. So it's only a revision. So let's directly dive into it. So before moving forward, do like my channel, subscribe, and stay tuned. Division of art and culture. Basically, Indian art is divided into two parts, that is visual art and performing art, and Indian culture separately. Visual art is of architecture, sculpture, pottery, painting, and handicrafts, and performing art is of music, dance, theater, puppetry, and martial art. Indian culture can be divided into religion, schools of philosophy, languages, literatures, calendars, feasts, and festivals. Moving forward, topics. This all topics are we are going to cover. Indian architecture. Classification of Indian art and architecture, as we can see, ancient India divided into Harappan art and Mauryan art, and then again Gupta art and South Indian art. Medieval India, Delhi Sultanate art and Mughal art. Modern India, Indo-Gothic style and Neo-Roman style. Okay, all these we are going to study. Just we have to remember this flow chart. That's it. Rock cut architecture, caves or temples. Rock cut architecture of ancient India. The process of creating a structure by carving it out of the natural rock is known as rock cut architecture. In this process, the rock that is not part of the structure is carved out until the desired structure is obtained. In comparison to any other form of rock architecture in the world, Indian rock cut architecture is more diverse and found in greater abundance as there are more than 1,500 rock cut structures in India. Moreover, Indian rock cut architecture has a religious character. The Mauryans are considered as the pioneers of rock cut cave architecture due to their excellence in this style. Buddhist influence on rock cut architecture. Buddhism was the dominant religion during the 3rd to 2nd century BC. Three important characteristic forms of Buddhist architecture which developed around this period are the monumental funerary mound or stupa, the hall of worship or the chaitya, and the monastery or vihara. Chaityas and viharas were developed along the hillside since the Buddhist and Jain monks usually stayed away from the cities and towns. Cave architecture in India. Cave architecture in India can be divided into three different phases such as first frame phase from 2nd BC to 2nd century AD, second phase from 5th to 7th century AD, and third phase from 7th to 10th century AD. First phase, 2nd BC to 2nd century AD. The first phase of cave architecture can be seen. Buddhist religion and its themes dominated the construction. Buddha was represented symbolically, example lotus, wheel, etc. Examples of such first phase Buddha symbolic representation of cave architecture are Kanheri, Ajanta, Karle, Bhaja, Nasik, Betsa caves, etc. Second phase, that is 5th to 7th century AD. The personification of Buddha happened during the second phase, that is from 5th to 7th century AD. And the plan of excavations, especially for Chaitya, remained the same as before, but viharas underwent some changes like an image of Buddha was housed in it. Example, Ellora, Badami and Baga caves, etc. Third phase from 7th to 10th century AD. The Buddhist architectural traditions were also utilized by both Hindus and Jains, along with some modifications which were suitable for their rituals. Example are Mandapeshwar caves and Elephanta caves, etc. Third phase. Okay, in the third phase, the Buddhist architectural traditions were also used by Hindus and Jains with some modifications. Moving forward. Mauryan age Barabar caves. It is one of the oldest examples of rock cut architecture in India. They were excavated around 2250 BC in Barabar Hills in Bihar during the Mauryan period. All four of the Barabar Hills were constructed during Mauryan period, particularly reign of Asoka and his grandson Dasaratha. In the beginning, the caves were made for the proponents of Ajivika sect, but later hundreds of rock-cut caves were made for the Buddhist, Jaina and the Brahminical traditions. Four major caves at Barabar Hills are the following. Sudama Cave, Lomas Rishi Cave, Karan Chopar and Visva Jhopri. Among these four caves, Lomas Rishi and the Sudama caves are most important from the architectural point of view. as they are the earliest examples of rock cut architecture in India. Lomas, Rishi, and Sudama caves. Both these caves have wood imitating chambers with their walls polishing like a glass mirror. First phase caves, that is Bhaja caves. These 22 rock-cut caves are located in the western India near Pune. They are early Buddhist caves depicting a typical early phase of the Buddhist architecture. The most prominent structure of the Bhaja caves is Chaitya Griha, which has an open horseshoe arched entrance. Another important part of the cave is a group of 14 stupas. Karle Caves. The Karle Caves were constructed around the beginning of the Christian era. Its pattern is similar to that of the Bhaja Caves. It is located near the north of the Bombay-Pune highway. The most important cave here is Great Chaitya Cave number 8. It is regarded as the largest rock-cut chaitya in India present in Karle Caves. Moving forward, Udaygiri and Khandagiri Caves. These caves are located near the city of Bhubaneswar in Odisha. They have been built during the reign of King Kharavela around 2nd century BC. They were used as residential blocks for Jain monks. So you should remember Udaygiri, Khandagiri, Bhubaneswar, King Kerala, Kharavela and Jain monks. Udaygiri has 18 caves of which Rani Gumpha is the largest cave of the Udaygiri while Khandagiri has 15 caves present in Bhubaneswar, Odisha used by Jain monks. Moving forward. Ajanta caves. Ajanta are located near Aurangabad, Maharashtra. Ajanta has 29 Buddhist caves. Horseshoe curve of a hillside was carved out to build these caves. During the initial phase, like in 2nd century BC, Chaityas and Viharas were carved out under the patronage of Satavahana kings. This phase is often known as the Hinayana phase as the Buddha was represented symbolically. During this phase, the emphasis was laid on stupas and figurative sculpture was neglected. The second phase of the construction was done during the Gupta and the post-Gupta periods in the 5th and 6th century AD, and also under the rule of the Vakataka kings. This phase was also known as Mahayana phase since Buddha was depicted as a human. These caves included both paintings and the rock-cut sculptures which were based on Jataka tales, tales narrating the life events and various births of the Buddha. Mural paintings of Ajanta are done using the fresco technique. In this technique, the surface wall is coated with a thin layer of lime plaster on which the paintings are drawn with watercolor when the surface is still wet. That is called as fresco technique used for mural paintings in the Ajanta caves. UNESCO World Heritage Site tag was given to Ajanta in 1983. Second phase caves, that is Bhaga caves. These were created in the 4th to 6th century AD. It consists of a group of 9 rock-cut monuments situated in Madhya Pradesh. All the caves here were used as viharas and out of 9 caves only 5 have survived. The most significant cave is Rang Mahal cave. These caves are renowned for their mural paintings. Ellora Caves. Ellora Caves are a group of 34 caves constructed in between 5th and 8th centuries AD. These are situated near Aurangabad. It was constructed during the rule of Kalachuri, Chalukya and Rashtrakuta dynasties. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site known for the tree religion as Hindu 17 caves, Buddhist 12 caves, and Jain 15 caves temples. It portrays the religious harmony prevalent during this period in India, that is the 5th and 8th century ADs, especially under the rule of Kalachuri, Chalukya, and Rashtrakuta dynasties. Kailash Temple, Ellora Cave 16. Kailasa Temple is regarded as the largest single monolithic excavation in the world. The Kailasanatha temple was constructed by Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty. There are 5 detached shrines in the temple premises and 3 of these are dedicated to the river goddesses Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. A notable sculpture is that of Ravana attempting to lift Mount Kailasa. Other examples of the monolithic rock cut architecture, Pancharathas or 5 chariots. Pancharathas is an example of monolith Indian rock cut architecture dating from the late 7th century during the reign of Pallava dynasty. They are located at Mahabalipuram, Chennai and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The 5 rathas were not assembled while each of them was carved from a single piece of stone and each of the different ratha was carved in a different style. The 5 rathas are named after the 5 Pandava brothers and their common spouse Draupadi from the great Indian epic Mahabharata as Dharmaraja Ratha, Bhima Ratha, Arjuna Ratha, Nakula Sahadeva Ratha, and Draupadi Ratha. Badami Caves. Badami Caves are a group of four rock-cut cave temples, three Brahmanical and one Jain situated in Karnataka. They were constructed during the Chalukyan regime during the 6th century AD. Cave number 3 is the largest, oldest among them and is dedicated to Lord Vishnu because it is a Brahmanical cave. Sites of Chalukyan architecture are concentrated in Badami, Aihole, Pattadakal and Mahakuta in the modern Karnataka. Third phase caves, Elephanta caves. The cave temples of the Elephanta are similar to those of Ellora and they belong to 8th century AD. These caves were originally meant to be a Buddhist site, but later they were dominated by the Shaivite faith, that is of Shiva. This cave is renowned for its sculptures, especially for the great Trimurti figure of Shiva. Shiva is akin to the Trimurti figure of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. In 1987, Elephanta Caves were declared as the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The caves in Elephanta consist of both Hindu and Buddhist caves, such as five Hindu caves containing the rock-cut sculpture representing Shiva, two Buddhist caves. These caves also resemble the Kailasa temple, which was also built by the Rashtrakuta dynasty during the 8th century AD. Jain architecture. Jain temples. In the 6th century CE, the emergence of Buddhism and Jainism contributed significantly in the development of early architectural styles in India. Under this new architectural style, Jain temple, basadis, Buddhist viharas, and stupas were constructed on a large scale. The main objective of art and architecture of the Jains were to preserve, maintain, and glorify their culture extensively. Obviously, the great Jain temples and sculptured monuments of Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Rajasthan are world renowned. Jain temples at Mount Abu and Ranakpur in Rajasthan are among the most spectacular Jain temples. Jain rock cut temples. During the initial years, Jain temples followed the Buddhist rock cut style and were built adjoining the Buddhist sites. Ellora cave is a unique site since it has monasteries associated with all the three religions such as Buddhism, Brahmanism, and Jainism. The earliest examples are the Udaygiri Khandagiri caves in the vicinity of the Bhubaneswar, which has the inscriptions of Kharavela kings declaring that these caves were meant for Jain monks. Features of the Jain temples. Jain architecture developed largely as an offshoot of Hindu and Buddhist styles. Early Jain temple architecture was mostly rock cut and bricks were hardly used. In later years, they deviated from Hindu and Buddhist styles to build on their own. The majority of the Indian Jain temple consists of three core building elements: image chamber, Garbhagriha, hall, mandapa, and porch roofed structure. Antechamber Antarala. They also have Antarala, that is antechamber. Antarala is a small vestibule space where worshippers can stand and gaze at the icon or follow rituals conducted within the shrine. Antarala is a transition area between Garbhagriha and the temple's main hall Mandapa, located on hills. Most of the Jain pilgrimage sites are built on top of the various hills include the following: Mount Abu in Rajasthan, Palitana temple in Gujarat, and Sonagiri temple in the MP, etc. Multiple and small domes. The chambers of these temples have pointed domes, and wherever there is dome, the pillars are omitted to create an octagonal space within. These domes on the top are usually smaller than the ones found in the Hindu temples. Many multiple domes reaching towards the sky give a very distinct appearance to Jain temples. Use of marble. Jain temples are also noted for the use of rich materials like marble and also for the ornamentation. Designed pillars. Jain temples also consist of numerous pillars having a well-designed structure which ultimately forms a square. These pillars and roofs of the temple are well decorated and are richly carved. Jagati. Jain temples were mostly commonly built on platforms referred to as Jagati or Vedi or terraces. Even rock-cut cave temples have such platforms, and it was done with an intent to elevate the temple above the surrounding surface and create a distinct sacred area. Prakars, small cells, and doorways. Jain temples were enclosed by prakaras, freestanding high compound walls surrounding it. The cells of Jain viharas are plain and small, designed with the motive to observe rigorous asceticism by Jain monks. The doorways are also small, and one has to either bend or crawl to enter a cell. Important Jain temples. Some of the most architecturally important Jain sites can be found in Ellora and Aihole in peninsular India. The majestic statue of Gomateshwara at Shravanabelagola in Hassan district of Karnataka is an example of the rich heritage of Jain architecture in this region. In central India, Khajuraho, Deoghar, Chanderi, and Gwalior have some marvelous examples of Jain architecture. Even the West Gujarat and Rajasthan have been strongholds of Jainism since early times. Akota is famous for Jain bronze images. It is located on the outskirts of Baroda in Gujarat. It is Mount Abu in Rajasthan is known for Dilwara temple which is dedicated to Jain Tirthankars. Ranakpur temple is dedicated to first Jain Tirthankar Lord Adinath. Jain icons. These are world renowned for the use of rich materials such as marble, metal, stone, etc. and aesthetic beauty. At Shravanabelagola. It is a 57 feet high monolithic statue of Lord Gomateshwara. It is installed on the peak of Vindhyagiri. It is also known as Lord Bahubali, son of the first Tirthankara Adinath in tradition. At Bhavangaja. It is known for the world's largest megalithic statue carved out of mountain of the first Jain Tirthankara, Lord Adinatha. Buddhist architecture. Key elements of the Buddhist architecture. Buddhist architecture is related to different aspects of Buddha's life, symbols representing Buddha's life, tales, and stories associated with him. The Mauryan king Ashoka was the greatest patron of Buddhist architecture. The key elements of Buddhist architecture consist of the following: stupas, viharas or monasteries, and chaityas or prayer halls. Stupas. A stupa is a dome-shaped sacred burial mound made up of bricks, which were used to house Buddha's relics or to commemorate significant facts and events related to Buddhism. In India, the following places are known for the oldest famous stupas: Sarnath, Sanchi, Amaravati, and Bharhuj. Characteristics of stupas. Stupas are usually built on a foundation laid with blocks of stone or bricks. A hemispherical dome anda was raised on this foundation. In later years, the drum of the stupa became more elongated and elevated. Almost it took the form of a cylindrical vessel. On the truncated top of the hemisphere, a harmika is placed surrounded by a railing. The stupa is enclosed by a vedika, circumambulatory pathway. Pradakshina path runs around the stupa at the ground level within the railing. Turanas are the ceremonial gateways around the stupas. See, you can see the diagram here. You can find the chatras. See, you can find the stupa dome. You can find the east torana and west torana, and you can also find the ambulatory passage. Okay, just stop here for a while and go through the image so that you can get a picture. Important stupas. The Great Stupa of Sanchi, Madhya Pradesh. It is one of the oldest structures in India. It is built of large burnt bricks and mud mortar. The nucleus of the stupa consists of a simple hemispherical brick structure built over the relics of the Buddha. Dhamek Stupa, Sarnath, Uttar Pradesh. It is believed to have been built by Ashoka and later rebuilt in the Gupta period to commemorate the Buddha's activities in this location. As this stupa contains the relics of Buddha, it is now an important place of Buddhist pilgrimage. The Dhamek Stupa is said to mark the spot where the Buddha gave the first sermon to his first five Brahmin disciples after attaining enlightenment, revealing his eightfold path leading to nirvana. Barhut Stupa, Devar, Madhya Pradesh. It has been built originally by Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE, but many works of art, particularly the gateway and railings, were apparently added during the Shunga period in the 2nd century BCE. It has been largely destroyed and most of the existing remains, railings and entrance gateways are now in the Indian Museum. The pillars of Barhut Stupa depicts various Jataka stories associated with the Buddha's life. Amaravati Stupa, Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. The Amaravati Stupa was the largest in Andhra Pradesh region and is referred to in ancient inscriptions as Mahachaitya. It is a ruined Buddhist monument probably built in phases between 3rd century BCE and about 250 CE at Amaravati in AP. The stupa at the Amaravati was initially built using the bricks but later on covered by using the carved limestone slabs. The gateway's dome and railings of the Amaravati stupa were profusely ornamented with beautiful carvings. Chaitya. A Chaitya is a Buddhist shrine or place of worship with a stupa at one end of the congregational worship by the monks. This structure had a rectangular prayer hall with stupa placed in the center of the hall. Entire Chaitya had three divisions, central Chaitya and two aisles. A row of pillars separated central Chaitya from two aisles. Polishing was found on the internal walls of Chaityas and ending of the Chaitya was apsidal in shape. Structures like Chaitya were common in both Hinduism and Jainism also. These early Chaityas are apsidal in the plan and at the center of the apsidal structure there was a rock stupa or a large figure of Buddha depicted in both sitting or standing postures. In due course of time, the windows of Chaitya had become an ornament to the facade. Some of the most beautiful Chaityas are located at Ellora, Ajanta, Bhaja, Karle, Bhag, Nasik, Kanheri, etc. Vihara. Viharas or monasteries were the dwelling place for Buddhist monks. The main purpose of constructing viharas was to provide the residence of monks in rainy seasons. Viharas or monasteries were excavated near Chaityas. Depiction of various scenes from the life of Buddha is found on the walls here. An important point to note here is that unlike Chaityas, Viharas does not have stupa. These monastic buildings carved out of rocks or built of bricks were self-contained units. They had a Chaitya hall attached to it with a stupa, the chief object of worship. Viharas were constructed with brick or excavated from rocks. Some of the important Buddhist viharas are those at Nasik, Karle, Ajanta, Ellora, Kanheri, Bagh, and Badami, etc. Chaitya and vihara are examples of Buddhist rock cut architecture. Buddhist brick structure, Mahabodhi Temple. It is the finest example of Indian brickwork and was highly influential in the development of later architectural traditions. It is a place where Buddha achieved nirvana and located in the Gaya, Bihar. Emperor Ashoka built a diamond throne or Vajrasana at this place between 250 to 233 BCE. This temple-like structure was mainly meant to protect the Bodhi tree. Additional structures at this place were later built by Shungas and others. Hindu temple architecture. Temple architecture. Hindu temple architecture has mainly varieties of style, though the basic nature of the Hindu temple remains the same. Hindu temple architecture reflects the synthesis of the following arts, the ideas of the Dharma, beliefs, values, and the way of life cherished under the Hinduism. It is influenced by early Buddhist structures such as the stupa. The first Hindu temples were built in rock cut caves, for example, the Badami caves. Basic features of Indian temples. Garbhagriha or Sanctum Sanctorum. It is a cave-like sanctum. The Garbhagriha is made to house the main icon, main deity, that is the main idol of the god, which is itself the focus of the ritual attention. In the earliest temples, it used to be a small cubical structure with a narrow single entrance. Mandapa or entrance. It is a pillared outdoor hall or a pavilion for public rituals and is located at the entrance to the temple. It may be a portico or colonnaded series of columns placed at regular intervals hall that incorporates space for a large number of worshippers. Some temples have multiple mandapas in different sizes named such as Ardha Mandapa, Mandapa and Maha Mandapa. Shikhara or Vimana. Vimana is found in South Indian temples and Shikharas are found in the North Indian temples. You should remember this one. Vimana in South and Shikharas in the North Indian temples. Shikhara has a curving shape while Vimana has a pyramidal-like structure. Shikhara refers to the rising tower or spire above the sanctuary and also the pillared halls in the Hindu temple architecture of the North India and also often used in Jain temples. Vimana is the structure over the Garbhagriha or inner sanctum in the Hindu temples of South India and Odisha in East India. However, in South Indian Hindu architecture text, the term Shikhara means a dome-shaped crowning cap above the Vimana. Vahana. It is the vehicle or mount of the main deity of the temple, along with a standard pillar or dhwaj which is placed actually before the sanctum. Amalaka. It is a stone disc-like structure crowning the top of the North Indian style shikara. Kalasha. Wide-mouthed or pot or ornamental pot design decorated the shikara in North Indian temples. Antarala vestibule. Antarala is the area of, or zone of transition between the Garbhagriha and the temple's main hall, Mandapa. Jagati. It is an unpraised platform for devotees to sit and pray. It is an upraised, I'm sorry, it is common in North Indian temples. Types of Hindu temples. The architectural principles of Hindu temples in India are described as in Shilpa Shastra. Shilpa Shastra mentions three main temples types of temple architecture. Nagara or the northern style, Dravida or the southern style, Vesara or the mixed style. Nagara style. The style of temple architecture that widely practiced in northern India is known as Nagara. Northern N for Nagara N. Nagara style was regionally developed with each region manifesting its own qualities. For example, various subtypes of Nagara architecture are found such as Odisha, Khajuraho school, Solanki school, etc. Because it was regionally developed. Commonly in Nagara style, an entire temple will be built on a stone platform with steps leading up to it. That is the common point among all different type of regionally developed Nagara style type of architecture. The three main distinctive features of the Nagara style are the following: Shikara, curvilinear tower; Garbhagriha, sanctum sanctorum; Mandapa, entrance hall. The Garbhagriha is always located exactly under the tallest tower. For example, Dashavatara temple of Diogar, Vishwanatha temple Khajuraho, Lakshman temple Khajuraho, Jagannath temple Puri, etc. Based on the type of Shikara, Rekha Prasada type or Latina type. This type of temple has square Shikhara at the base and its walls curve slowly inward towards the top. Bhamsana temple. Bhamsana buildings tend to be broader and shorter than the Latina ones. Vallabhi type. These are rectangular buildings with a roof that rises into a vaulted chamber. They are usually called wagon vaulted buildings. So you can see at the peak there is Shikara, then below there is a Gopuram or dome, then there is a pediment, then you can see the bracket or you can see Garbhagriha, in the central part, Sanctum Sanctorum, okay, and you can see the Mantapa and Tomana, that is hallway and Stomba also. Moving on. Three sub-schools of Nagara type temples. Odisha school. In different parts of Kalinga Empire, a distinct style of temple architecture developed. The exterior walls were lavishly decorated with the intricate carvings, but interior walls were plain. Odisha temple, Kalinga Empire, Odisha. Exterior walls decorated, interior walls plain. There was no use of pillars in the porch. Iron girders were used instead to support the roof. The mandap was known as Jagmohan in this region. The shikaras in the Odisha school was known as rekhadials. They were almost vertical roofs which suddenly curved inwards sharply. The ground plan of the main temple was square. Temples were surrounded by a boundary wall as in the Dravidian style of temple architecture. For example, Sun Temple at Konark, also known as Black Pagoda, as the first rays of the sun entered the Garbhagriha through the sea-facing pagoda. Jagannath temple at Puri, Lingaraj temple at Bhubaneswar are the examples of Odisha school of Nagara style. Solanki school. The Solanki style of temple architecture flourished in Gujarat. It bears the closest affinities to the Rajasthan style. It consists of a sanctum, a closed hall, and a porch that is interconnected internally and externally. The wall faces are broken by numerous indentations, producing a pleasing contrast of light and shade. In large temples, a detached peristylar hall is added in the same axis, often preceded by a torana or ornamental arched entrance. In rare cases, the hall has more than one story. Examples of Solanki school of Nagara style are Vimala temple at Mount Abu, Somnath temple at the Kathiawar. The Chandela school. The Chandelas of Jijoti or Bundelkhand were known as great builders during the 10th to 11th centuries. They also built the temples at Khajuraho. The Khajuraho temples are famous for their graceful contours and erotic sculptures. These 22 temples at Khajuraho out of the original 85 are regarded as one of the world's greatest artistic wonders. The Khajuraho temples have a highly individualistic architectural character and are generally small in size. Each temple is divided into three main components: the cella or Garbhagriha, an assembly hall or mandapa, an entrance portico or Ardha mandapa. Some temples also contain the antarala or vestibule to the cella and the transepts or Mahamandapa. The Kandariya Mahadev temple is the largest and the most beautiful of the Khajuraho temples. The Shiva temple of Vishwanath and the Vishnu temple of Chaturbhuj are the important temples at the Khajuraho. Dravida style. Dravida style of the temple architecture became popular in South India. The major features of these temples remain common across the dynasties. The entrance gateway is located in the center of a front wall which is known as Gopuram. The shape of the main temple tower known as Vimana. It is like a stepped pyramid rising up geometrically. The Dravida temples are usually enclosed within a compound wall. For example, Shore Temple of Mahabalipuram, Brihadeshwara Temple of Tanjavur, Meenakshi Temple, Madurai, etc. Dravida temples based on shapes. These are basically five different shapes such as square, kuta or chaturasra, rectangular or shala or ayatasra, elliptical or gajaprishta or elephant bat or vrittayata, circular or vritta, octagonal or ashtasra. Other schools of Temple of South India. Hoysala school. It was developed in the period from 1050 to 1300 AD with the prominent seats being Belur, Halebit and Somnathpur, Karnataka. Multiple shrines were built around a central pillared hall. The shrines led out in the shape of an intricately designated star. This was known as stellate plan. Soft stone chlorite schist was the main building material. Massive emphasis was laid on the decoration of the temple through sculptures. Both the interior and exterior walls, even the jewelry worn by the deities, were intricately carved. All the chambers had shikharas, which were interconnected by an arrangement of horizontal lines and moldings. This resolved the tower into an orderly succession of tiers. The temples were built on an upraised platform known as Jagati, which was about 1 meter high. The walls and stairs of the temple followed a zigzag pattern. For example, Hoysaleshwara temple at Halebid, Vijayanarayana temple at Belur, etc. Vijayanagara school. They combined the features of Chola, Hoysalas, Pandyas, and Chalukyas architectural styles. Under them, the architectural style started to be influenced by the Indo-Islamic style of Bijapur, which in turn was reflected in the temples built during this period. The walls of the temples were highly decorated with carvings and geometrical patterns. Gopurams, which were previously present on the front side, were now built on the all sides. The enclosing walls were larger and monolithic rock pillars were used. Generally, temple pillars have mythical creature Yali engraved on them. It may be portrayed as part lion, part elephant, and part horse, and in similar shapes. More than one mandapas were built in each temple. The central mandapa came to be known as Kalyana Mandapa. The concept of secular buildings inside the temple premises was also introduced during this period. For example, Vittala Swami Temple, Lotus Mahal, Virupaksha Temple in Hampi, Raghunatha Temple in Hampi. A rock-cut idol of the Narasimha sitting on Adishesha snake near Hampi is marvelous in itself. Nayaka school. The Nayaka school of architecture flourished under the Nayaka rulers in a period between 16th centuries and 18th centuries AD. It was also known as Madurai school. It was architecturally similar to the Dravidian style but much larger in scope. It also has an Islamic influence. Presence of prakrams or huge corridors in the portico around the Garbhagriha along with roofed ambulatory passageways. The gopurams built under the Nayaka rulers were some of the largest gopurams. The art of gopuram reached its climax in the Nayaka style. The temple structure was filled with intricate carvings. For example, Meenakshi Temple, Madurai, etc. The Meenakshi Temple in Madurai has the tallest gopuram in the world. Vesara style. Vesara style is the combination of the Nagara and the Dravidian styles. In the mid 7th century, a distinct style of temple architecture grew in the Karnataka region under the patronage of Chalukya rulers. Vesara is a distinct stylistic tradition of Indian Hindu temple architecture primarily used in the Deccan and central India between the Vindhyas and the river Krishna. According to some historians, the style was started by the Chalukyas of Badami. Therefore, it is known as Chalukya style or Karnataka style of temple architecture. It was further improvised by Rashtrakuta and Hoysala dynasties. The height of these temples was reduced compared to its Nagara and Dravida counterparts. The height of the temple tower over the sanctum is usually shorter than the Vimanas in the Dravida temples. For example, Badami Temple, Durga Temple, Aihole, Virupaksha Temple, Pattadakal, Keshava Temple, Somnathpur, etc. Comparison of Nagara, Dravida and Vezara styles. Nagara, Dravida and Vezara. Nagara of the northern region, Dravida of the southern region, Vezara of the Deccan region. Nagara developed regionally, Dravida developed dynastically, and Vezara both developed regionally and dynastically. Nagara has a squared hall, Dravida has a squared hall, and Vezara also had a squared hall. Sanctum Garbhagriha, Sanctum Garbhagriha, Sanctum Garbhagriha. Gopurams are absent, Gopurams are absent, Gopurams may or may not be present. Compound walls are absent. Dravida temple is enclosed within a compound wall. Compound walls may or may not be present in case of Vesara. Nagara, a water tank may or may not be present. A water tank is present at the front of the temple from where water is drawn for sacred purposes in Dravida, and a water tank may or may not be present in Vesara. In Nagara, Kalvi Nilya Tower Shikhara built over Garbhagriha gradually curving inward. In Dravida, pyramidal tower Vimana with several stories in receding dimension. In Visara, the shape of the tower was pyramidal but height was reduced miniature Vimanas. Examples are Dashavatara Temple of Diogar, Vishwanatha Temple of Khajuraho, and Lakshman Temple of Khajuraho and Jagannath Temple of Puri for Nagara. For Dravida, Shore Temple Mahabalipuram, Brihadishwara Temple Tanjavur, Meenakshi Temple Madurai. For Vesara, Badami Temple Karnataka, Durga Temple Aihole, Virupaksha Temple Pattadakal, and Keshava Temple Somnathpur. Indo-Islamic architecture. Indo-Islamic architecture, Sultanate and Mughal rule, a new stream of architecture was evolved in India which combined Saracenic, Persian and Turkish influences with prevailing sensibilities of Indian architectural and decorative forms. These architectural entities which showcase multiple styles are known as Indo-Saracenic or Indo-Islamic architecture. Materials used for the construction: concrete and lime mortar, rubble masonry, polychrome tiles, sandstone, marble, quartzite, buff, brickwork, and large blocks of stones at various sites. Decorative forms. They introduced the arabesque and geometrical patterns, ornamental writing, and formal representation of plant and floral life. These forms included designing on plaster through incision or stucco. The designs were either covered with colors or left plain. Motifs were also painted on or carved in stone. Walls, carpets, ceilings, and other textiles were also decorated with floral designs. 16th century onward, the techniques of mosaic designs and the pietra dura were made use of for decoration of the surface of the walls. At times, lapis lazuli was used in the interior walls or on canopies. Other decorations included arabesque, calligraphy in high and low relief carving, and profuse use of jails. The arches were squat and plain and sometimes high and pointed. The roofs were usually a mix of the central dome and other smaller domes, chhatris, and tiny minarets. The central dome was capped with an inverted lotus flower motif and stone or a metal pinnacle. Important terms of Indo-Islamic architecture. Motif. A decorative image or design, especially a repeated one forming a pattern. Stucco. Fine plaster used for coating wall surfaces or molding into architectural decorations. Turquoise. A semi-precious stone sky blue to pale green in color, highly prized for its use in jewelry by many ancient cultures. Pietra dura, pictorial mosaic work using semi-precious stones, found on walls, cenotaphs, marble jalis in the Taj Mahal. Lapis lazuli, a rich blue semi-precious stone sometimes flecked with gold. The main source in the ancient world was the mountains of Badakhshan, northern Afghanistan, from where it was traded widely. Lapis lazuli was used in ornaments, jewelry, and seals, etc. Major Indo-Islamic architectural forms. Mosques were developed for daily prayers, the Jama Masjid. Tombs were constructed to the practice of the burial of the dead. Dargahs is the tomb or shrine of a Muslim saint. Minars are similar to stamba or tower, a common feature in the traditional Indian architecture. They were typically built adjacent to the mosques. The basic form of minaret includes a base, shaft, and a gallery. For example, Qutub Minar, Chand Minar at Daulatabad Fort, etc. Hammams are formally laid out gardens. Madrasa is a school or college, especially a school attached to a mosque where young men study Islamic theology. Sarais or caravanserais were largely built on a simple square or rectangular plan. They were meant to provide temporary accommodation to Indian and foreign travelers, pilgrims, merchants, traders, etc. Forts were concentric circles of outer walls in Golconda so that the enemy had to breach these at all stages before getting in. Categories of styles of Indo-Islamic. The study of Indo-Islamic architecture is conventionally categorized in the following: the Imperial style Delhi Sultanate, the Mughal style Delhi, Agra and Lahore, the Provincial style Mandu, Gujarat, Bengal and Jaunpur, the Deccani style Bijapur and Golconda. The architecture of Delhi Sultanate. The material used to build the structures were derived from the damaged temples. They built magnificent palaces decorated with arches and domes. Various floral patterns and teachings from the Holy Quran are also visible in the walls and arches. Lotus bells, swastika, and other Hindu motifs were also widely used. The Quwwatul Islam mosque built by Qutbuddin Aibak, founder of the slave dynasty, was the first structure under Delhi Sultanate. Other remarkable structures of Sultanate include Alai Darwaza, Qutub Minar, Adhai Din Ka Jhopara, etc. Qutub Minar. It was built in 13th century and Qutub complex in which the Minar is present is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The construction of the bottom story of the Minar was started by the Qutbuddin Aibak, Delhi Sultanate, and his successor Iltutmish completed it by adding three more stories. However, Feroz Shah Tughlaq replaced the top story of the Minar which was damaged by the lightning and also added one more story to it. Hence, now it has five stories and a height of nearly 234 feet, about 73 meters, making it the second tallest minar in India. While the tallest minar in India is Fateh Burj, located in Punjab. The Qutub Minar was named after the saint of Delhi, Khwaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. The minar is a mixture of circular and polygonal shapes. It is largely built using the red and buff stone along with some use of marble in the upper stories. Its balconies are characterized by high decoration and bands of inscriptions intertwined with foliated designs. Alai Darwaza. The Alai Darwaza was built by Alauddin Khilji by enlarging the Quwwatul Islam mosque enclosures of colonnades and providing them two gateways. The domed gateway is decorated with red sandstone and inlaid white marble decorations, inscriptions in Naqsh script in latticed stone screens and showcases the remarkable craftsmanship of Turkish artisans who worked on it. This is the first building in India to employ Islamic architecture principles in its construction and ornamentation. Mughal architecture. Mughal architecture is symbolic of synthesis of Indian traditions and Persian architecture. A major aspect of the Mughal architecture is the symmetrical nature of buildings and courtyards. An important aspect is building the large domes, high walls, and arches. Mughals started the conception of a garden tomb, that is construction of a garden surrounding the tombs. It was also a unique feature of the tomb construction in India. Pietra work was also popularized in India by Mughals. The tomb of Humayun in Delhi, built by his widow Begum, in the first distinct example of proper Mughal architecture inspired by the Persian architecture. Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan built Jama Masjid in the 17th century in Delhi. The mosque has three great gates, four towers, and two minarets. It is constructed of strips of red sandstone and smooth white marble. The first three stories of the minarets are made of red sandstone, the fourth of the marble, and the fifth of the sandstone again. The provincial style of architecture, Bengal school, use of bricks and black marble. Example, Tantipara Masjid, Chamkatti Masjid, and Lotan Masjid. Malwa schools, absence of minar in the mosque. Some European influence can also be seen in the later phases. Mandu Fort, Jahaz Mahal, etc. Jaunpur School. The salient features of the buildings were square pillars, small galleries, and absence of minarets. Examples, Atala Masjid, Khalis Mukhlis Masjid, etc. Kashmir School. Wooden architecture and Buddhist influence can be notified. The log construction using deodar trees for the construction of wooden bridges called as cuddles and wooden shrines called as ziyarats are the best illustrations of the wooden architecture of the Kashmir. Examples are Mosque of Shah Hamdan in Srinagar, Jama Masjid at Srinagar, etc. Deccan style of architecture, Bijapur School. Development of the dome reached its ace. Ceiling without support was built. Example are Gol Gumbaz and Ibrahim Roza, etc. Gol Gumbaz. It is situated in the Bijapur district of Karnataka. It is the mausoleum of Muhammad Adil Shah, the seventh Sultan of the Adil Shahi dynasty of Bijapur, 1498 to 1686. The tomb is a complex building consisting of a gateway, a Nakhar Khana, a mosque, and a sarai located within a large walled garden. Gumbaz is a square building topped with a circular drum above which rests on a majestic dome, giving the building its nomenclature. It is built of dark grey basalt and decorated with a plasterwork. The dome of the Gol Gumbaz is the largest in the world. The building has an amazing acoustical system which can be observed in the Whispering Gallery, where sounds get magnified and echoed many times over. Gol Gumbaz is fine convergence of many styles located in the medieval India. While its structural peculiarities of geometrical proportions, arches, dome, and load-bearing techniques suggest Timurid and Persian styles, it is made of local material and is decorated with a surface of embellishments popular in Deccan, therefore representing the assimilation of Timurid, Deccan, and Persian styles. Comparison of Indo-Islamic and early Indian architecture. Indo-Islamic architecture ornamental decoration was vital. Early Indian architecture ornamental decoration was vital. Muslims were forbidden to replicate living forms on any surface. Hindus adorned all surfaces with sculptures and paintings. Open court in many cases was surrounded by colonnades. Similar structures were built in chaityas and viharas. Extensive use of lime as mortar, very limited use of lime. Arcuate style of construction using arches and beams, and Traviate style of construction using pillars and beams and intels. Mosque was light and open. Temple was dark and closed. They introduced geometrical and arabesque patterns and representation of the plant and floral life. Ornamentation is largely naturalistic, showing human and animal forms. The Islamic form of worship, with its emphasis on congregational prayer, requires a spacious courtyard with a large prayer hall, a cell to house the image of the deity Garbhagriha, and often small halls in front of the worshippers, as Hindu form of worship emphasis on individual prayer. Modern age architecture, colonial architecture. During the colonial rule spanning about 150 to 200 years under the British Empire, art and architecture attained its golden age in the second half of the 19th century, representing an important phase in the modernization of country. Modification of a stark medieval lifestyle got to and ultimately become a democratic one at the dawn of independence in 1947. Characteristics of the colonial architecture. Direct reflection of their achievements in architecture back in England. Aim of the colonial architecture under the British rule was to build structures to house their people and their organizations to control the Indian Empire. Cantonments and civil lines came up in towns, rare usage of stone, especially the marble. Later, stone was replaced by brick as the prime material. The slate machine made tiles and steel girders came in vogue. Galvanized iron revolutionized the Anglo-Indian roof. Different colonial architectural styles, neoclassical, Greco-Roman style of architecture. It involved revival, recreation, readaptation, characterized by the geometrical structures fronted with the lofty pillars. Town Hall in Mumbai is the example of neoclassical style. Neo-Gothic, it is a revival of the early Gothic style of architecture built in the northern Europe during the medieval period. It was characterized by high-pitched roofs, pointed arches, and detailed decoration. The British invested a lot in the design and construction of railway stations in the neo-Gothic style. For example, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus in Mumbai is in the form of neo-Gothic style. Indo-Saracenic revival style. It was a hybrid of Indian and European style which developed in an early 20th century. The Indo-Saracenic revival architecture drew elements from the native Indo-Islamic architecture and combined it with the neoclassical styles favored in Victorian Britain. The Gateway of India is the most famous example of this style. The industrialist Jamshedji Tata built the Taj Mahal Hotel in the similar style. Art Deco style, also called as Deco Saracenic, combination of Islamic and the Hindu architectural styles. Mahalakshmi Temple, Regal Cinema, and the High Court building in Mumbai are the examples of Art Deco style. Contribution of Sir Edwin Lutyens and Sir Herbert Baker. Fusion of classical European and Indian elements. Lavish colonnades, open verandas, tall, slender windows, chhajjas, wide roof overhangs, and cornices, jalis, circular cone apertures, and chhatris, freestanding pavilions were used at the same time. The decorative elements were from typical historic Indian architecture. Lutyens designed the Rashtrapati Bhavan, formerly the Viceroy's residence. It is built using the sandstone and its design includes feature like canopies and jali work familiar in Rajasthan. Lutyens designed many other monuments in Delhi, including India Gate. In recognition of his contributions, New Delhi is also known as Lutyens Delhi. Baker came to India to work with Lutyens. He had also designed many buildings in New Delhi, such as Central Secretariat Building, Parliament House, bungalows of MPs, etc. Architects of the modern India. Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier's largest and the most ambitious projects were the design of Chandigarh. Capital complex of Chandigarh, designed by the Le Corbusier, was declared as a World Heritage in 2016 by UNESCO. Le Burger's design include the usage of Le Corbusier's, I'm really sorry, design includes the usage of raw concrete whose surface not smooth or polished and which showed the marks of the forms in which it dried. B.V. Doshi, India. In his initial years, he worked for Le Corbusier in his projects. His noted works include Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Nigufa, and Tagore Hall in Ahmedabad. Charles Correa. He is known for his adaptation of modernist tenets to local climates and building style. Solution to third world problems. His famous works in India include Mahatma Gandhi Memorial in Ahmedabad and Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur, planning of Mahatma Gandhi and the planning of the Navi Mumbai. Indian handicrafts. Handicrafts are an amalgamation of all the things that are crafted by a man or the woman's hand, a unique kind of craft, special importance to tribal and the rural communities. Bandhani or Bandhej. One of the most important art is the Bandhani or Bandhej, that is referred to as the technique of tie and dye in English. There is evidence of the use of this ancient technique being used today in Rajasthan and Gujarat. It is also popular in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Laharia became kind of tie and dye that leads to ripples or wave-like patterns in the fabric is called as laharia. This is usually made in Jaipur and Jodhpur. Ikat. Another kind of tie and dye is called ikat, which is also called the resting register dyeing method. In this method, the register dyeing on yarn is repeatedly applied before the cloth is woven. The major centers for this ikat are Telangana, Odisha, Gujarat, and Andhra Pradesh. Traditional regional saris of India. Pochampalli from Telangana, silk and cotton sari with intricate motifs and geometric ikat style of dyeing. Patola saris of Gujarat, rich handloom saris. Baluchari, West Bengal, depicts the ancient stories on its border and pallu. Silk threads are extensively used. Jamdani sari of West Bengal, Finest muslin with opaque patience woven on a patterns. Finest muslin with opaque patterns woven on a transparent background. The Choi brocades, Varanasi, a kind of Banarasi sari where weaving technique involves a single or double warp and 2 to 5 colors on the weft on silk fabric. Chanderi of Madhya Pradesh, silk zari and the cotton woven together to make a fabric that is lighter than a feather. It is a thorough sari. It is a see-through sari. Ilkal, Karnataka. Use of kasuti embroidery with chariot elephant as common motifs. Sant from West Bengal, Nawari, Maharashtra, Bomkai, Odisha, Konrad, Tamil Nadu, Kosa, Chhattisgarh. Paithani, Maharashtra, Kalamkari, Andhra Pradesh, Kasavu, Kerala, Dabu, Rajasthan. Ivory craft. The traditional centers for the craving of the ivory are Delhi, Jaipur, and parts of Bengal, West Bengal. Ambari Hatti. They have produced beautiful objects of art, cascades, palanquin, and the famous Ambari Hatti. Other specialist areas are Kerala, well known for painting on ivory, Jodhpur, bangles made of ivory, Jaipur, famous for its ivory, jali work used in homes and small art objects. Silver jewelry. One of the most famous techniques used by silver jewelry artists is called as filigree work. The Bidri work done in the Bidri village of Karnataka is also very famous on its beauty. It uses silver to create inlay work against the dark backgrounds. This creates an elusive and stark contrast for the shining silver work. Important centers of brass work. Kerala Gajatandava, Karnataka Raja Jain imagery and icons, Odisha and West Bengal Dhokra casting, Jaipur and Muradabad Pahaldar Jaipur lands, Warangal Telangana Pemberti craft, embroidery. The embroidery work can be performed by using threads of gold, silver, silk, or cotton on cloth using needles. Kashmir is famous for the fine workmanship of the Kashida embroidery that is generally done on the famous Kashmiri shawls. Banaras brocade is famous for their silver and golden zari embroidery work on the saris. They have floral motifs and generally silk saris are used. It takes 2 to 8 weeks to make them. In the courts of Muslim rulers in the medieval period, Himru material was used for royal dresses and shawls. Even today, Himru shawls are very popular. They are made in Aurangabad, Maharashtra. The royal Maheshwari saris of Madhya Pradesh also use a mixture of cotton and silk yarns. They are embellished with golden zari work. A list of embroideries in India. Chikankari, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Kantha, West Bengal and Odisha. फुलकारी पंजाब, बाग पंजाब, जरदोजी उत्तर प्रदेश, कशीदाकारी जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, आरी जम्मू एंड कश्मीर एंड गुजरात, मिरर वर्क राजस्थान एंड गुजरात, धरनिया गुजरात, गोटपत्ती राजस्थान, कसोटी कर्नाटका, भ्रबारी गुजरात, पिछवाई नथद्वारा एंड राजस्थान, शमिलामी मणिपुर, करचोबी राजस्थान, बन्नी गुजरात by लोहाना community, पीपली by पीपली village ओडिशा, फूलपत्ती का काम अलीगढ़ एंड रामपुर यूपी, तोड़ा तोड़ा ट्राइब्स ऑफ तमिलनाडु, मुकेश और मुकाइश लखनऊ उत्तर प्रदेश, बंजारा लंबाड़ा ट्राइब्स ऑफ द आंध्रा एंड बंजारा ट्राइब्स ऑफ एमपी एंड राजस्थान. So this was almost first lecture of art and culture.